The champagne glass slipped from my hand, shattering against the marble floor of the Riverside Hotel ballroom as I watched my fiancée Emma lean into Marcus Reid's ear, whispering something that made him smile in a way that turned my stomach. What made it worse was how natural they looked together, like they'd done this 1,000 times before. The rehearsal dinner was supposed to be our moment, the calm before our perfect storm of love. But instead I was watching the woman I'd planned to marry tomorrow acting like she was already married to someone else? Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you. Jake, you okay, man? Tyler Brooks, my best man, appeared beside me with a napkin, kneeling to help clean up the broken glass. His concerned expression told me everything I needed to know about how obvious my shock must have been. Yeah, just clumsy, I managed, though we both knew that wasn't true. I'd been a star quarterback in college. My hands were steady enough to catch a football in a thunderstorm. But watching Emma with Marcus had shaken something loose inside me. The worst part wasn't just seeing them together, it was realizing that everyone else seemed to think this was perfectly normal. Emma's parents, David and Patricia Collins, were chatting pleasantly with Marcus like he belonged here. My own parents, Robert and Susan Thompson, were so starstruck by the Collins family wealth that they probably wouldn't have noticed if Emma had started making out with Marcus right there on the head table. I met Emma Collins 3 years ago at a marketing conference in downtown Denver. She was representing Collins Family Real Estate, and I was there for Sterling & Associates, trying to land their account. What started as a business meeting over coffee turned into dinner, then late-night conversations, then falling asleep on video calls when she traveled for work. Emma was everything I thought I wanted in a partner. Intelligent, driven, beautiful, and from a family that had built an empire in Colorado real estate. Looking back now, I should have noticed the red flags earlier. Marcus Reid was always there, lurking in the background of her stories. Marcus thinks we should expand into commercial properties. Marcus suggested this new restaurant. Marcus knows the owners, so we got the VIP treatment. At first, I thought he was just a business associate, maybe a family friend. Emma always introduced him as her investment advisor when we ran into him at charity galas or business functions. The engagement happened 8 months ago at Garden of the Gods. I'd saved for 6 months to buy the ring, 2-carat diamond that cost more than my car but seemed appropriate for a Collins. Emma said yes, cried at all the right moments, and posted the most perfect engagement photos on social media. Her mother, Patricia, immediately took over wedding planning, insisting on Mountain View Country Club, the same venue where she and David had married 30 years ago. Everything seemed perfect on the surface. Emma's family welcomed me warmly, though I always felt like I was auditioning for the role of son-in-law rather than simply being accepted. David Collins would quiz me about my career trajectory and investment portfolio during family dinners. Patricia would make subtle comments about my apartment downtown, suggesting that married couples should live somewhere. It's more appropriate like Cherry Hills Village where they had their mansion. But I was in love, and love makes you stupid. Started working overtime to afford the lifestyle Emma was accustomed to. I bought expensive clothes for her family's social events. I traded in my reliable Honda for a BMW lease I could barely afford. I even looked into houses in Cherry Hills Village, though the down payment alone would have wiped out my savings. The rehearsal dinner had been Patricia's idea, of course. Darling, the Riverside Hotel has such a romantic ballroom, and we simply must give everyone a proper preview of tomorrow's festivities. What she didn't mention was that Marcus would be there seated at the family table like he belonged there more than I did. I watched Emma throughout dinner, trying to convince myself I was imagining things. But every time I looked away and looked back, she was leaning toward Marcus, laughing at something he'd said, or touching his arm in that casual way that suggested intimacy. When the speeches began, Marcus stood up without being asked and delivered a toast that sounded more like a best man speech than anything a family friend should say. Emma has always been special, Marcus said, raising his glass as he looked directly at her instead of the crowd. She deserves someone who truly understands her world, her dreams, her family's legacy. Tomorrow, she's getting exactly what she deserves. The room erupted in applause, but something about his words felt like a challenge directed at me. Emma's smile was radiant as she looked at Marcus. The same smile I thought was reserved for me. That's when I noticed her hand resting on the table, and Marcus's hand covering it, their fingers intertwined like lovers. My throat went dry. 3 years together, 8 months engaged, and I was just now seeing what had apparently been right in front of me the entire time. Emma wasn't nervous about marrying me tomorrow. She was torn about it. The elaborate wedding, the expensive venue, the perfect dress hanging in her childhood bedroom, it was all theater, and I was just playing a role. Tyler must have seen the color drain from my face because he immediately started making excuses to get me out of there. Jake's not feeling great, probably just pre-wedding nerves. We should head out early, big day tomorrow. But as we prepared to leave, Emma finally broke away from Marcus and approached me with a concerned expression that would have been convincing if I hadn't just spent 2 hours watching her ignore me. "Baby, are you okay? You look pale." She reached for my face with the same hand that had been holding Marcus's moments before. "It's just nerves, right? Tomorrow is going to be perfect." I caught her wrist gently, looking into her eyes and searching for any sign of the woman I'd fallen in love with. "Emma, can we talk privately for a minute?" Her eyes flickered toward Marcus, who was watching our interaction with interest rather than concern. "Of course, but Jake, if this is about cold feet, that's totally normal. Marcus was just telling me that even his brother got nervous before his wedding." Marcus was telling her, of course he was. I released her wrist and forced a smile. "You're right, probably just nerves. I'll see you tomorrow." As Tyler and I left the ballroom, I heard Patricia Collins telling someone how wonderful it was that Emma had such a devoted friend like Marcus to help calm her pre-wedding anxiety. Devoted friend. The phrase echoed in my head as we walked through the hotel lobby, past the fountain where Emma and I had shared our first kiss 3 years ago. "Dude, what the hell was that back there?" Tyler asked, once we were safely in his car. "Because if you're having second thoughts about Emma, now would be the time to mention it."
Ow.
I stared out the window at the Denver skyline, lights twinkling in the distance like stars. "Ty, how long have you known me? Since college? Why? In all that time, have you ever seen me give up on something I wanted?" "Never. You're the most stubborn person I know. Remember when you kept asking Sarah Mitchell to prom even after she said no 3 times? And eventually she said yes?" "Yeah, and you guys dated for 2 years. So what's your point?" I turned to look at my best friend, the only person who never wanted anything from me except friendship. "My point is that I've spent 3 years fighting for Emma Collins. I just realized I might have been fighting the wrong battle." Tyler was quiet for a moment, navigating through downtown traffic. "You think she's cheating with Marcus?" "I think Marcus never left the picture, and I was too busy trying to become good enough for her family to notice." The words tasted bitter as I said them, but they felt true. Question is, what am I going to do about it? Well, the wedding's tomorrow. Could call it off and let Marcus win. Let Emma make a fool of me in front of everyone. I shook my head. "No, Tyler. If Emma Collins wants to play games, she's about to learn that 2 can play." As we pulled up to my downtown loft, I was already forming a plan. Emma thought she could have her cake and eat it too. Keeping Marcus as her real love while marrying me, for whatever reasons, suited her family's agenda. But she'd made one crucial mistake. She'd underestimated exactly how far I was willing to go to turn the tables on everyone who thought Jake Thompson was just a convenient placeholder in Emma Collins's perfect life. Tomorrow was supposed to be our wedding day. Instead, it was going to be the first day of Emma Collins learning what it felt like to be played by someone who'd been studying at the feet of masters. The morning of what was supposed to be my wedding day, I woke up to 17 missed calls from Emma and a text message that made my blood run cold. "Jake, where are you? The flowers aren't here. The photographer is asking questions, and Marcus says you haven't returned his calls. Please don't do this to me today." Marcus was handling our wedding logistics now. Perfect. I sat on the edge of my bed in the downtown loft, staring at my tuxedo hanging on the closet door. 6 months ago, Emma and I had spent an entire Saturday picking it out at Men's Warehouse. She'd insisted on the most expensive option, saying that her family's photographer needed us to look magazine ready. for the wedding album that would sit on their mantel for decades. My phone buzzed again. This time it was my mother, Jake. "Honey, what's going on? Patricia Collins just called saying you haven't shown up for photos? Your father and I are already at the country club? People are starting to arrive?" Of course, my parents were already there, probably helping Patricia arrange flowers or direct caterers. For the past 8 months, they'd been more invested in this wedding than I was. My father, Robert, had never made more than $60,000 a year as a mechanic, and my mother, Susan, worked part-time at a dental office. Being connected to the Collins family was the social elevation they'd dreamed of their entire lives. I scrolled through more messages. Tyler had sent a simple, "You good?" around midnight, but nothing since then. He was probably getting ready to perform his best man duties, assuming I was just running late due to cold feet. What he didn't know was that I'd spent most of the night researching Marcus Reid instead of sleeping. Turns out, Marcus wasn't just Emma's investment advisor. He was the son of Reid Capital Management, one of the largest private equity firms in Colorado. His family had money that made the Collins family look middle class. More importantly, he'd been Emma's boyfriend all through college at the University of Colorado Boulder. They'd broken up when Marcus took a job in New York after graduation. But according to his social media posts, he'd moved back to Denver 18 months ago. 18 months. Right around the time Emma started becoming distant, claiming she was stressed about expanding the family business. Right around the time she stopped wanting to spend quiet evenings at my apartment, preferring expensive restaurants where we might network with the right people. I'd been so focused on trying to fit into Emma's world that I'd missed the obvious. Truth, I was never meant to be permanent. I was a placeholder, keeping Emma's bed warm and her parents satisfied while Marcus got his life together enough to be worthy of their princess. My phone rang again. This time it was David Collins, Emma's father. His voice was controlled but tight with barely concealed anger. "Jake, I don't know what kind of game you're playing, but you have 200 guests arriving at Mountain View Country Club in 3 hours. Whatever pre-wedding anxiety you're experiencing, you need to handle it like a man and get yourself here immediately." "Mr. Collins," I said calmly, "I'll be there. But first I need to ask you something. How long have you known that Emma and Marcus were still involved?" The silence on the other end of the line stretched so long, I thought he'd hung up. Finally, he cleared his throat. "I don't know what you're talking about, son. Marcus is a family. A friend who's been helping with some business matters." "Business matters, right?" I walked to my window, looking out at the Denver morning skyline. "And it was just business when he was holding her hand last night at dinner? Just business when she spent more time talking to him than to her own fiancé?" "Jake, you're being paranoid. Emma loves you. She chose you. Now stop this nonsense and get ready for your wedding." But I could hear something in his voice, a defensive edge that told me he knew exactly what I was talking about. David Collins was a successful businessman who'd built his real estate empire by reading people and situations. He'd known about Emma and Marcus all along, and he'd let me plan a wedding by a ring and rearrange my entire life for a marriage that was never meant to happen. After I hung up, I called Tyler. He answered on the first ring, clearly panicked. "Dude, where the hell are you? The groomsmen are here, your parents are freaking out, and Emma looks like she's about to have a breakdown." "How does Marcus look?" "What?" "I don't know. Fine, I guess." "Why is he helping with the wedding preparations?" "Yeah, actually, he's been really in coordinating with vendors, making sure everything runs smoothly. Honestly, it's weird how much he cares about every detail, but Emma's family seems grateful for the help." I almost laughed. Marcus wasn't helping with our wedding. He was sabotaging it. Every detail he was coordinating was probably designed to ensure things went wrong at the right moments. The missing flowers Emma had texted about, the photographer, asking questions, probably even my own absence. Marcus had been counting on me to crack under pressure and either show up defeated or not show up at all. "Tyler, I need you to do something for me, and I need you to not ask questions until later." "Jake, man, you're scaring me." "Are you calling off the wedding?" "But I need you to find Lily Collins and bring her to the country club." "Emma's sister?" "Why would I?" "Just trust me. She's probably at her apartment near the University of Colorado campus." Tell her that her sister needs her there immediately for a family emergency. This is insane. You're getting married in 3 hours, and you want me to hunt down your future sister-in-law? Tyler, how long have we been friends? Since college, but... Then trust me. Find Lily Collins and bring her to Mountain View Country Club. And Tyler, don't tell anyone you're doing it, especially not Emma's family. After hanging up, I finally got dressed. But instead of putting on the expensive tuxedo Emma had chosen, I grabbed a simple black suit from my closet. If I was going to crash my own wedding, I wasn't going to do it wearing a costume that Marcus Reid had probably helped select. Lily Collins was the black sheep of the family, 3 years younger than Emma, and everything her older sister wasn't. Where Emma was polished and diplomatic, Lily was blunt and authentic. Where Emma chose her words carefully to maintain family harmony, Lily said exactly what she thought. She was studying photography at UC Boulder, and had always treated me more like a real person than a potential family acquisition. More importantly, Lily was the one person in the Collins family who'd never seemed impressed by Marcus Reid. Last Christmas, she'd made a comment about him being slick in all the wrong ways. That had earned her a sharp look from Patricia and a week of family tension. I arrived at Mountain View Country Club 90 minutes before the ceremony was scheduled to begin. The parking lot was already filling with guests. I could see caterers rushing around the back entrance with last-minute preparations. Instead of going to the main entrance where Emma's family would be waiting, I used the side door that led directly to the groom's preparation room. The space was elegant but understated, with dark wood paneling and leather furniture that screamed old money. My groomsmen were nowhere to be found, probably still out looking for me at Tyler's direction. I sat in one of the leather chairs and waited. 20 minutes later, Tyler burst through the door with Lily Collins in tow. She was wearing jeans and a Colorado Buffaloes sweatshirt, her dark hair pulled back in a messy ponytail. She looked exactly like someone who'd been dragged away from a Saturday morning without explanation. "Jake, what the hell is going on?" Lily demanded, crossing her arms and giving me the same direct stare that had always made Emma uncomfortable. "Tyler said there was a family emergency. But everyone here seems perfectly fine except for the fact that you disappeared this morning. Lily, I need to ask you something, and I need you to be completely honest with me. When am I not honest? How long have Emma and Marcus been back together?" Lily's expression shifted from annoyance to something that looked like pity. She glanced at Tyler, who was clearly lost, then back at me. "Jake, you really don't know, do you? I'm starting to figure it out. But I need to hear it from someone I trust." She sank into the chair across from me, suddenly looking older than her 22 years. "They never really broke up, Jake. When Marcus moved to New York, they did long distance for about 6 months. Then they officially ended things, but Emma would fly out to visit him every few months. She told my parents it was for business networking. And when he moved back to Denver, they started seeing each other again immediately. But Marcus's family has expectations about marriage, timing, public image. He needed to establish himself professionally before they could go public as a couple." Tyler was staring at both of us like we were speaking a foreign language. "Wait, are you saying Emma's been cheating this entire time?" "Not cheating exactly," Lily said carefully. "More like Jake was a convenient cover story, someone safe and respectable that my parents could approve of, while Emma waited for Marcus to be ready for marriage." The words hit me like a physical blow, even though I'd suspected as much. "You never said anything." What was I supposed to say? "Hey Jake, my sister is using you as a placeholder while she waits for her real boyfriend to propose. You seemed happy. Emma seemed happy. I figured if you really loved each other, maybe the Marcus thing would just fade away." But it didn't fade away, no. It got stronger, especially after Marcus moved back and started working with my father's business. They're planning to merge Reid Capital with Collins Real Estate. It would create the largest property investment firm in Colorado. Everything clicked into place. This wasn't just about Emma choosing between two men she loved. This was about business, family legacy, and social positioning. Emma had never intended to go through with marrying me. The plan had always been for something to go wrong, for me to bow out gracefully, leaving her free to marry Marcus in a few months once the business merger was complete. "So what's the plan here, Jake?" Tyler asked, because we've got about an hour before guests start expecting to see a wedding. I stood up and straightened my tie, feeling calmer than I had in months. We're going to give them exactly what they want, which is a wedding that no one will ever forget. Lily was watching me with interest now, her photographers. I clearly seeing something in my expression that intrigued her. What do you need from me? I need you to be my date to Greece. What? The honeymoon. Emma and I are supposed to fly to Santorini tomorrow morning. Azure Bay Resort, Ocean View Suite, 7 days and 6 nights. The reservation is in my name. And the tickets are changeable. Tyler was shaking his head. This is crazy, Jake. You can't just swap out brides and go on your honeymoon with her sister. Why not? Emma gets to keep Marcus. Her family gets their business merger. I get to spend a week in Greece with the only Collins family member who's ever treated me like a human being instead of a project. Lily was grinning now, the same mischievous smile that had gotten her in trouble at family dinners for years. You know what? That sounds amazing. I haven't had a real vacation in 2 years, and Emma deserves to have her perfect day ruined just a little bit. Is insane, Tyler repeated. But he was starting to smile too. What about the ceremony? Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now back to the story. What about the guests? Oh, we're having the ceremony, I said, checking my watch. But first, I think it's time for the Collins family to learn what happens when they underestimate Jake Thompson. The ceremony was scheduled to begin in 4 minutes, and I could hear the growing murmur of guests arriving through the ornate doors of Mountain View Country Club. Classical music drifted from the main hall where Emma was probably adjusting her dress one final time. Surrounded by bridesmaids and her mother Patricia, all blissfully unaware that their carefully orchestrated performance was about to become something entirely different. I handed Lily my credit card and the spare key to my loft. There's a black cocktail dress in my closet left over from when Emma used to stay over. It should fit you. Get changed and meet me back here in 20 minutes. You keep women's clothes in your closet? Tyler asked, raising an eyebrow. Emma bought it for my office Christmas party last year, then decided it wasn't formal enough and bought something else. It's still got tags on it. I turned to Lily. Can you handle this? Jake, I've been handling my family's drama for 22 years. Getting dressed up to crash my sister's wedding is probably the most honest thing I've done in months. She paused at the door. Are you sure about this, though? Because once we do this, there's no going back. Emma will never forgive you, and my parents will probably disown me. Lily, they were never planning to let this marriage happen anyway. At least this way, we're the ones calling the shots. After she left, Tyler collapsed into one of the leather chairs, running his hands through his hair. Okay, so walk me through this master plan of yours. Because right now, it sounds like you're planning to humiliate your fiancée in front of 200 people and then run away too. Greece with her sister, that's exactly what I'm planning to do. I pulled out my phone and started making calls. But first, we're going to give everyone exactly what they came here to see. The first call was to the photographer. Hi, this is Jake Thompson, the groom. I need you to make sure you get pictures of absolutely everything today. Every guest reaction, every family member, every moment. Money is no object. Second call was to the videographer with the same instructions. Whatever happened today, I wanted it documented completely. The third call was to my travel agent. I need to change the names on the tickets to Santorini. Remove Emma Collins, add Lily Collins. Yes, I understand there's a fee. Charge it to my card. Tyler was watching me with growing admiration and horror. You're really doing this? I'm really doing this? I checked my watch. 30 minutes? I'm going to walk down that aisle and marry Emma Collins exactly the way she wants. And then, when the minister asks if anyone objects to this union, I'm going to give them the show of their lives. What if no one objects? What if they just let the ceremony continue? Tyler, have you met the Collins family? They're not exactly known for keeping their opinions to themselves. Besides, Marcus will be sitting in the front row watching the woman he loves marry another man. Trust me, someone's going to break. 20 minutes later, Lily returned, looking like a completely different person. The black cocktail dress fit her perfectly. She'd managed to style her hair into something elegant despite the time constraint. She looked sophisticated enough to belong at a Collins family event, but with an edge that suggested she might cause trouble at any moment. "How do I look?" she asked, spinning once. "Like Emma's worst nightmare," I said honestly. "Perfect." The three of us made our way toward the main hall, where I could hear the string quartet playing Emma's carefully selected processional music. Through the partially open doors, I could see the altar decorated with white roses and baby's breath, probably costing more than most people's rent. 200 guests in formal attire filled the seats, including several Denver City Council members, prominent business owners, what looked like half the Colorado real estate industry. Emma's family had spared no expense, making this the social event of the season, which made what I was about to do even more satisfying. "Okay," I said quietly to Tyler and Lily. "Here's how this works. Tyler, you walk me down the aisle like we planned. Act normal, like nothing's changed. Lily, you slip in through the side door and find a seat near the back. When things get interesting, be ready to move fast." "What's my signal?" Lily asked. "Trust me, you'll know." The wedding coordinator, a stressed-looking woman in her 50s, appeared beside us with a clipboard and a headset. "Oh, thank goodness, there you are. Everyone's been looking for you. Are you ready?" "The bride is getting anxious." "I'm ready," I said, adjusting my tie one final time. "Let's give Emma Collins the wedding she deserves." Tyler and I positioned ourselves at the back of the aisle while the coordinator spoke into her headset, probably alerting Patricia Collins that the missing groom had finally arrived. I could see Emma's mother in the front row, resplendent in pale blue silk, and obviously relieved that her daughter's perfect day was back on track. Sitting beside Patricia was David Collins, looking every inch the successful patriarch in his custom-tailored tuxedo. Next to him, in the seat that should have been reserved for close family, was Marcus Reid. He was wearing the same expression of calm confidence he'd had at the rehearsal dinner, like a man who knew exactly how this story was going to end. The processional music changed, and the bridesmaids began their carefully choreographed walk down the aisle. Each of Emma's sorority sisters from college looked picture-perfect in their matching lavender gowns, moving in time with the music like they'd rehearsed it a dozen times. Finally, the music swelled into the traditional wedding march, and Emma appeared at the far end of the aisle with her father. She was breathtaking in a way that made my chest tighten despite everything I now knew about her. The dress was a masterpiece of silk and lace that had probably cost more than my car, and her smile was radiant as she looked toward the altar where I was waiting. But as she walked down the aisle, I noticed her eyes weren't focused on me. Kept drifting to Marcus, seated in the front row, and the expression on her face wasn't the joy of a bride seeing her beloved. It was the look of someone seeking approval, reassurance, permission. Tyler squeezed my shoulder as Emma and David reached the altar. "Last chance to change your mind," he whispered. "Not a chance," I whispered back. David Collins placed Emma's hand in mine with the traditional words about gaining not a daughter, but a son, though his smile looked forced now that he was close enough to see the expression on my face. Emma's hand was trembling slightly, and when I looked into her eyes, I saw something I'd never noticed before: guilt. She knew on some level Emma knew exactly what she was doing to me, and she was going through with it anyway. The minister, an elderly man who'd performed hundreds of weddings at Mountain View Country Club, began the traditional ceremony with practiced ease. "Dearly beloved, we are gathered here today to witness the union of Emma Patricia Collins and Jacob Michael Thompson in holy matrimony." The words washed over me as I stood there holding Emma's hands, looking into the face of the woman I'd thought I wanted to spend my life with. Behind her, I could see Marcus leaning forward slightly in his seat, and Patricia Collins dabbing at her eyes with a lace handkerchief. Marriage is a sacred bond between two people who choose to share their lives, their dreams, and their futures, the minister continued. It requires honesty, trust, and commitment from both parties. Honesty, trust, commitment. The words would have been laughable if they weren't so tragic. If anyone present knows of any reason why these two should not be joined in marriage, speak now or forever hold your peace. This was it. It's the moment when someone was supposed to object, when the carefully constructed facade was supposed to crumble. I waited, watching Marcus's face, expecting him to leap to his feet and declare his love for Emma in front of everyone. But Marcus didn't move, sat there with the same calm expression, watching Emma marry another man without saying a word, because he didn't need to object. He knew something I was only beginning to understand. This wedding was never meant to be permanent. Emma would go through with the ceremony. We'd have our pictures taken, and our reception dance, and then in a few months there would be a quiet divorce. Emma would keep the Collins name for business purposes. Marcus would get his family merger. And I would disappear with a settlement large enough to keep me quiet. The silence stretched on for several seconds before the minister prepared to continue. Very well then, let us proceed with the exchange of vows. That's when I squeezed Emma's hands and smiled at her with genuine warmth for the first time in months. Actually, I said, loud enough for everyone to hear, I have something to say. Emma's eyes widened in confusion, and I could hear murmurs starting in the crowd behind us. Patricia Collins looked like she was about to faint, and David was half rising from his seat. Emma, I continued, still holding her hands and speaking directly to her while the entire room listened. You look absolutely beautiful today. This dress, this venue, this whole celebration, it's everything you dreamed of, isn't it? Jake, what are you doing? She whispered, but I could see panic starting to creep into her expression. I'm giving you exactly what you want, I said loud enough for the microphone to pick up my words and carry them to every corner of the room. A wedding that everyone will remember forever. I turned to face the crowd, Emma's hands still in mine, and found Marcus's face in the front row. He was no longer calm. For the first time since I'd known him, Marcus Reid looked genuinely worried. Ladies and gentlemen, I announced, before we continue with this ceremony, I think there's something everyone should know about the bride and groom. The murmur in the crowd grew louder, and I could see people starting to shift in their seats, sensing that something was very wrong with this picture-perfect wedding. Emma tried to pull her hands away, but I held them firmly. Jake, please don't do this. Don't do what Emma. Don't tell the truth. Don't give your family and friends the honesty they deserve. I turned back to the crowd. See, the thing about marriage is that it's supposed to be based on love, trust, and commitment. But what happens when one of those things is missing? I could see Tyler in the crowd, grinning despite himself. And in the back row, Lily Collins was leaning forward with the intensity of someone watching the best movie of her life. What happens? I continued, when the bride has been in love with someone else this entire time? The silence that followed my words was deafening. 200 guests sat frozen in their seats, processing what I'd just said while Emma's face went from confusion to pure terror. The string quartet had stopped playing, and even the catering staff, who'd been discreetly moving around the edges of the room, had stopped to stare. Jake, you don't know what you're talking about, Emma said. Her voice barely above a whisper, but still audible through the microphone clipped to my lapel. You're having some kind of breakdown. We should postpone this and talk privately. Postpone? I asked, loud enough for everyone to hear. Emma, we've been postponing honesty for 3 years. I think it's time we had this conversation in front of everyone who cares about us. Patricia Collins had gone pale as porcelain, and David was now fully standing, his face a mask of barely controlled rage. But it was Marcus's reaction that interested me most. He was gripping the edge of the pew in front of him so tightly his knuckles had gone white, and he kept glancing toward the exits like he was calculating his escape route. Ladies and gentlemen, I continued, turning to address the crowd while still holding Emma's trembling hands. I want you all to know that Emma Collins is an extraordinary woman. She's intelligent, successful, beautiful, and comes from one of Denver's most respected families. Any man would be lucky to marry her. The crowd relaxed slightly, thinking perhaps this was just an unconventional but heartfelt wedding speech. Patricia managed a weak smile, and David slowly sat back down. Unfortunately, I added, I'm not the man she wants to marry. The tension snapped back into the room like a rubber band. Emma tried again to pull away from me, but I held her hands, gently but firmly. You see, Emma has been in love with Marcus Reid for 8 years. They dated all through college, maintained a long-distance relationship when he moved to New York, and rekindled their romance when he returned to Denver 18 months ago. The only reason Emma agreed to marry me was because Marcus wasn't ready to propose. and her family needed her to appear settled while they negotiated a business merger between Collins Real Estate and Reid Capital Management. The murmur in the crowd had become a roar. People were turning to stare at Marcus, who looked like he wanted to disappear into the floor. Patricia Collins was fanning herself with her wedding program, and David had his phone out, probably trying to figure out how to do damage control. "That's not true," Emma said, but her voice lacked conviction. "Jake, you're embarrassing yourself. You're embarrassing both our families." "Am I?" I asked. "Because I think the only embarrassing thing here is that two families spent $50,000 on a wedding for a couple that was never meant to be married." I reached into my jacket pocket and pulled out my phone, which I'd prepared with a slideshow of screenshots. "Would you like to see the text messages between Emma and Marcus from last week? The ones where they discussed how to handle the Jake situation after the wedding?" Emma's face went completely white. "How did you get those?" "Emma, you left your laptop open at my apartment 2 weeks ago." "I wasn't snooping, but when I saw Marcus's name pop up in your messages, curiosity got the better of me." I held up the phone so the crowd could see. "Should I read them out loud? Or would you prefer to explain to everyone yourself why you were discussing divorce lawyers before we were even married?" The crowd erupted. People were standing up, craning to see, talking over each other and shocked. Whispers, I could hear fragments of conversation. "Did he say divorce lawyers? Marcus Reid? This is better than reality TV." Marcus finally stood up, his composure completely shattered. "Emma, we should go. This is insane." "Marcus, sit down," David Collins commanded in a voice that could have cut glass. "You've done enough damage." "I've done damage," Marcus shot back. "I'm not the one airing private family business in front of half of Denver's society." "No," I said, projecting my voice over the chaos. "You're just the one who's been planning to steal another man's wife while pretending to be a family friend." That's when Marcus made his mistake. Instead of staying calm or leaving quietly, he lost his temper completely. "Steal your wife? Jake, you were never supposed to keep her. This whole engagement was a business arrangement. Emma was always coming back to me." The words hung in the air like a bomb that had just exploded. Emma looked like she wanted to disappear. Patricia Collins was now crying openly, and David looked like he was contemplating murder. "Thank you, Marcus," I said, with genuine gratitude. "I was hoping you'd confirm that." The minister, who had been standing frozen throughout this entire exchange, finally found his voice. "Perhaps we should take a break and discuss this privately." "Oh no," I said, turning back to the crowd with a smile. "We're just getting to the good part." I pulled out a manila envelope from my other jacket pocket. "See, once I knew what was really going on, I did a little research. Marcus, would you like to tell everyone about your other girlfriends in New York? It's the ones Emma doesn't know about?" Marcus went very still. "What are you talking about?" "I'm talking about Jessica, Amanda, Sarah. The 3 women you were simultaneously dating while maintaining your long-distance relationship with Emma." I opened the envelope and pulled out printed photos. These are from Marcus's social media accounts, which he apparently forgot were public. Here's Marcus with Jessica at a charity gala in Manhattan last Christmas. Here's Marcus with Amanda at a Hamptons beach house last summer. And here's Marcus with Sarah at a Broadway show 3 months ago. I held up each photo as I spoke, and the crowd leaned forward to see. Emma was staring at the pictures with a look of dawning horror. "Marcus," she said quietly, "you told me you weren't seeing anyone in New York." "Emma, I can explain this one too," I asked, pulling out the final photo. This is from Marcus's Instagram from 2 weeks ago. He's at dinner with a woman named Victoria, and the caption reads, "Amazing night with my beautiful girlfriend." Posted the same day you were telling Emma that he was ready to commit to her exclusively. The crowd had gone completely silent now, everyone straining to hear Emma's response. She was staring at Marcus with a look of absolute devastation. "You're still with someone else?" she said, and it wasn't a question. Marcus opened his mouth, then closed it, then opened it again. Finally, he said, "Emma, it's complicated. Complicated." Emma's voice was rising now, and I could see 3 years of suppressed doubts and insecurities finally bubbling to the surface. "You told me to break up with Jake. You told me to trust you. You told me we'd be together after the business merger was finalized. We will be, Marcus said desperately. Victoria doesn't mean anything. She's just what? Emma demanded. Just another placeholder like Jake was for me. The moment those words left her mouth, I knew I had one. Emma had just admitted in front of 200 witnesses that our entire relationship had been a lie. I released her hands and stepped back. Ladies and gentlemen, I think we have our answer about whether this wedding should continue. Emma turned to me with tears streaming down her face. Jake, I'm sorry. I never meant for it to happen like this. No, I said gently. You meant for it to happen quietly, in a few months, after you'd gotten what you needed from me. The only difference is the timing. I turned to the crowd one final time. I want to thank everyone for coming today to witness what I think we can all agree has been the most honest wedding ceremony any of us have ever attended. The bar is open, the food is paid for, and I encourage you all to stay and enjoy the reception. I started to walk down the aisle, but then stopped and turned back. Oh, and one more thing. Emma, I hope you'll understand that I won't be able to make our honeymoon in Santorini. But don't worry, the reservation won't go to waste. That's when Lily Collins stood up from her seat in the back row. She was still wearing the black cocktail dress I'd given her. And she looked absolutely stunning as she walked down the aisle toward me. Sorry I'm late, she said loud enough for everyone to hear. Traffic was terrible. Emma's mouth fell open as she recognized her sister. Lily, what are you doing here? Going to Greece, apparently, Lily said, linking her arm through mine. Jake invited me to take your place on the honeymoon, and honestly, I could use a vacation. The crowd exploded again. People were standing on their seats now, trying to get a better view of this unprecedented drama. Patricia Collins had fainted and was being fanned by several guests. David Collins was shouting something at Marcus, who was trying to push through. The crowd toward the exit. But Emma just stood there at the altar in her $10,000 wedding dress, staring at her sister and the man she'd thought she could manipulate indefinitely. You can't be serious, she said. Emma, I said, looking at her one final time, I've never been more serious about anything in my life. You wanted to play games with people's hearts? Congratulations, you just lost. Lily and I walked down the aisle together while the crowd cheered and applauded like they were watching the finale of their favorite television show. Behind us, I could hear Emma calling my name, but I didn't turn around. We had a plane to catch. The flight to Santorini was everything a honeymoon trip should have been, except I was sitting next to the right Collins sister. Lily had changed into comfortable travel clothes and spent most of the journey reading a photography magazine while occasionally looking out the window at the clouds below us. There was no awkwardness between us, no pressure to perform romance or pretend this was anything other than what it was, two people escaping a toxic situation together. So, Lily said, as we began our descent into the Greek islands, what's the plan when we land? Are we going to pretend to be newlyweds? Or should I introduce myself as your sister-in-law who stole you away from your wedding? Right. Let's just be ourselves, I said. Two friends taking a vacation together because life is too short to waste on people who don't appreciate us. The Azure Bay Resort was everything the travel brochures had promised. Whitewashed buildings cascading down cliff sides toward impossibly blue water, infinity pools that seemed to blend into the horizon, and staff members who treated every guest like visiting royalty. Our ocean view suite had been designed for romance, the private balcony overlooking the caldera, and a bathroom that was larger than my entire apartment back in Denver. This is incredible, Lily said, stepping onto the balcony with her camera already in hand. I can't believe Emma was willing to give this up for Marcus Reid. She wasn't giving it up, I corrected. She was planning to come here with him, and a few months after the divorce was finalized and the business merger was complete, Lily lowered her camera and looked at me seriously. Jake, can I ask you something? When did you figure out that she was using you? I thought about it while watching the sun begin to set over the Aegean Sea. Honestly, part of me always knew something was off. But I was so focused on trying to be good enough for your family that I ignored all the warning signs. The final confirmation came when I saw those text messages, but the doubt had been building. For months, You're not angry about wasting 3 years of your life? No, I said, and I was surprised to realize I meant it, because if I hadn't been with Emma, I might never have met you. And this trip, this moment right here, is already better than anything I experienced in 3 years of trying to fit into a world that never wanted me. That evening, we had dinner at the resort's clifftop restaurant, sharing Greek wine and watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of orange and pink. Lily told me about her photography dreams, her plans to travel the world documenting different cultures, and her frustration with her family's expectations that she follow Emma's path into the real estate business. You know what the funny thing is? She said, twirling pasta around her fork. My parents always compared me to Emma, wondering why I couldn't be more like her. Responsible, diplomatic, focused on the family business. But Emma's been lying too. Them for years about what she really wanted. What do you think she really wanted? I think she wanted to be someone else entirely. Someone who could make her own choices without worrying about family expectations or business implications. But she was too scared to disappoint our parents, so she created this elaborate performance instead. My phone had been buzzing intermittently throughout dinner with calls and messages from Denver, but I'd ignored them all. Finally, during dessert, I checked to see what was happening back home. There were dozens of missed calls from Emma, my parents, Tyler, and several numbers I didn't recognize. The text messages ranged from angry to pleading to threatening. Emma's latest message read, "Jake, please come home. Can work this out. I made a mistake, but we can fix this." God, it was the message from Tyler that made me smile. Dude, you're famous. The wedding video is all over social media. Hashtag Collins wedding drama is trending on Twitter. Emma's parents hired a PR firm to do damage control. Marcus Reid moved back to New York. You're a legend. I showed the message to Lily, who laughed so hard she nearly choked on her wine. Oh my God, we broke the internet. My mother is probably having a nervous breakdown. Do you feel bad about that? About my mother having a breakdown? A little. About Emma finally facing consequences for her actions? Not even slightly. The next morning, we rented a scooter and spent the day exploring the island. Lily photographed everything. The narrow streets of Oya, the black sand beaches, the local fishermen mending their nets, the cats sleeping in doorways. She had an eye for finding beauty in unexpected places, and watching her work reminded me why I'd fallen in love with creativity in the first place. We talked about everything and nothing as we rode around the island. Lily told me about her college friends, her favorite books, her dreams of opening a gallery someday. I found myself sharing stories about my childhood, my early career struggles, and my hopes for the future that didn't involve trying to impress anyone else's family. By the third day, we'd fallen into an easy rhythm. Morning coffee on the balcony, afternoons exploring different parts of the island, evenings at various restaurants, trying local specialties. It felt more natural and comfortable than any vacation I'd ever taken with Emma, who'd always been more focused on posting the perfect Instagram photos than actually experiencing where we were. You know, Lily said on our last night as we sat on the beach watching the stars, this has been the best week I've had in years. Even though it started with your sister's wedding imploding, especially because it started with my sister's wedding imploding. For the first time in my life, I got to see someone in my family face real consequences for their actions. And I got to spend a week with someone who actually likes me for who I am instead of who they think I should become. I looked at her. In the moonlight, this amazing woman who had been living in her sister's shadow her entire life, and felt something shift inside me. Not love, not yet, but the possibility of something real and honest that could grow into something beautiful. Lily, I said, when we get back to Denver, would you like to have dinner sometime? Without any family drama, or wedding disasters, or business mergers involved? She smiled, and it was nothing like Emma's calculated expressions. It was genuine and warm and full of possibility. I'd like that very much. The flight home was bittersweet. We were leaving paradise behind. But we were also returning to a world where we could write our own story instead of playing roles in someone else's drama. As the plane descended into Denver International Airport, I felt lighter than I had in years. Emma was waiting at the gate when we arrived, looking tired and desperate in a way that would have broken my heart a week ago. I just felt sad for her. Her, this woman who had spent so much energy maintaining lies that she'd forgotten how to tell the truth. "Jake," she said, stepping in front of us as we walked through the terminal. "Please, we need to talk." "No, Emma," I said gently. "We really don't." I took Lily's hand and walked past her, toward the exit, toward whatever came next toward. A future that belonged entirely to us. Up next, you've got 2 more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hit the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out.